Hello, dear Leo. Let me ask you something that might shake your core. What if the strange dreams, the sudden delays, the emotional chills you've been feeling, weren't random at all, but signs from God? And what if ignoring them right now could cost you something bigger than you imagined? Welcome to Eternal Mindfulness, your sacred space for soul-aligned astrology, higher guidance, and cosmic transformation. This is your in-depth horoscope for May 8th through May 11th, and this reading isn't just a forecast. It's a divine alert. A warning that comes not to scare you, but to prepare you. Because Leo, the sign is coming. And this time, it's different. If you've stumbled upon this video, maybe after scrolling through dozens of others, trust me, it's not coincidence. It's divine orchestration. There's a force, whether you call it the universe, your higher self, or God, that's trying to get your attention. And guess what? You're listening. Right here. Right now. During this exact window in May, something powerful is aligning for you. And those of you ruled by the sun, warm-hearted, radiant, magnetic, you're at the center of it all. But here's what makes it serious. This isn't about what you want anymore. It's about what your soul needs. Maybe you've been sensing it. The restlessness. The way someone's name pops up over and over again. That eerie dream you can't shake. Or a conversation that suddenly shifted energy and left you uneasy. These aren't just small events. They're spiritual breadcrumbs, and Leo, you're being led somewhere deeper. In Buddhist philosophy, we're told that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. In astrology, when the soul is ready, the signs appear. And when God wants to redirect your path, He doesn't always shout. Sometimes, He whispers. Through numbers. Through energy. Through silence. So if you've seen repeating numbers like 1111, 333, or 717 lately, don't dismiss them. Drop the first angel number that came to mind in the comments right now. Yes, even if you're skeptical. That simple act of claiming it could open something unexpected within you. Let me take a moment to say this from my heart. Thank you, for being here, for sharing your light with this space, and for supporting Eternal Mindfulness with your likes, your subscriptions, your beautiful comments. Your presence fuels this channel and allows messages like this to reach the people who truly need them. And Leo, I'm going to ask you to stay until the very last second of today's video. Because what God is trying to reveal to you, what the universe is orchestrating behind the scenes, is nothing short of extraordinary. I'm talking about a soul awakening. A destiny reroute. A truth you've needed to hear for far too long. So breathe in. Ground yourself. And get ready. The sign is coming, and this time, you must not ignore it. Sometimes, what appears random is only unseen order unfolding in silence. The days from May 8th to 11th are not ordinary, not in their rhythm, and certainly not in what they bring to your awareness. If you've been catching the same song echoing through different places, running into the same stranger more than once, or waking from dreams so vivid they seem to cling to your skin, it's time to pause and ask not, why me, but why now? Leo, as a sign governed by the sun, you carry in your essence the light of clarity, the fire of purpose, and the warmth of truth. But even the sun, in its brilliance, casts shadows. And it is within these subtle shadows that your deeper knowing begins to stir. When solar power, the clarity of will, intersects with Pluto's domain, the realm of shedding, of depth, of transformation, something inside you begins to shift. It's not loud. It's not theatrical. It's quiet, and quiet can be powerful beyond measure. In those moments when the world feels a little off, when a conversation drops suddenly into silence, or when your skin prickles for no reason, you are not broken. You are becoming aware. The wisdom traditions of old often taught that all perception begins not in the eye or the ear, but in the stillness between breath and thought. It is in that stillness that the signs you seek are actually being offered. And no, they are not meant to scare you. They are meant to recalibrate you, to invite you back into alignment with what you may have long forgotten but never truly lost. When the tarot offers you the moon and the page of swords, it's not just pointing to uncertainty, it's inviting you into gentle inquiry. The moon doesn't conceal to deceive, it conceals so you may practice discernment. And the page of swords isn't shouting answers, they're whispering questions, the kind that rise when you're quiet enough to hear your own inner pulse. These two archetypes together suggest that your next steps won't be lit by logic alone, but by presence. By paying attention to the way your body responds when something's off, by noticing which voices in your life feel heavy, and which spaces feel strangely colder than usual. This isn't a time for overreaction, nor is it a time for denial. It's a sacred in-between, a threshold. And thresholds are where old patterns loosen, and new perceptions awaken. In the practice of mindful observation, there is a teaching that says, observe without judgment, and the truth will rise like oil on water. So in these days, practice noticing without needing to explain. Take notes. Write down what you felt. Revisit a dream that kept pulling you back. Ask, without urgency, what it may be revealing. These signs, whether a flicker in a conversation or the way your heart hesitated in a familiar room, are not asking you to panic. They are asking you to become present. To soften your attention. To return from the noise of outside expectations and tune into the subtler currents moving through your own awareness. This is not a hunt for drama. It's a return to your original sensitivity. There's a quiet wisdom in allowing space for questions to breathe. You don't have to name everything you feel right now. But you do have to honor it. That's what it means to listen. That's what it means to be awake. Change has a way of arriving before we feel ready for it. It rarely asks for permission. It doesn't wait for your schedule to clear or your mind to catch up. It simply enters, often in the form of a closed door, a cancelled meeting, a missed opportunity, a goodbye that came too soon. And yet, in its quiet finality, it holds something sacred, the invitation to grow beyond where you once stood. What makes this moment meaningful isn't just that something is ending, but that the ending itself is meaningful. You see, not everything that leaves your life is a loss. Sometimes, it's a realignment. A gentle correction. A loving hand guiding you away from what no longer fits, even if you once fought hard to keep it. It's tempting to interpret setbacks as punishment, but more often, they are protection. Like a gust of wind steering a ship away from rocks you didn't know were there. The appearance of the judgment card is no accident here. It speaks not just to endings, but to awakenings, those moments when you realize you can't go back to who you were, even if you tried. Something inside you is shifting, and the life you were building on old beliefs can no longer hold the weight of your becoming. And then, there's the Wheel of Fortune, a reminder that life is circular, not linear. What feels like falling may simply be movement into a new layer of experience. You are not spiraling down, you are spiraling inward, toward truth. There's an old teaching that says suffering arises not from change itself, but from resistance to change. And so we cling to people, to labels, to dreams that no longer stir our soul. But here's the quiet truth. When you raise your inner frequency, when you begin healing, awakening, choosing truth over comfort, some parts of your life naturally fall away. Not because they were bad, but because they no longer resonate with who you are becoming. This isn't rejection. It's resonance. You are not being left behind, you are being lifted out of misalignment. When the law of attraction speaks of magnetism, it does not reward longing, it responds to frequency. So when you begin vibrating higher, things built on fear, control, or scarcity cannot remain. It's physics of the heart. Perhaps what's being taken away from you is simply being made room for what wants to find you. But to receive the new, your hands, and your heart, must be open. That openness may feel like emptiness at first. It may feel like loss. But emptiness, too, is a kind of preparation. Like the pause between two breaths. The moment between dusk and dawn. The silence before the music begins again. So if your plans are falling through, if people are pulling away, if the doors you thought would open are quietly staying shut, don't force them. Don't chase. Don't beg the universe to rewind. Ask instead, what truth is being protected here? What new direction is being carved through the space left behind? Maybe it's time to write it down. Name the things that no longer feel like home. Say goodbye, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Gratitude that you're growing. Gratitude that something more aligned is on its way. Not everything needs to make sense now. But if you listen closely, you'll feel it, the quiet click of alignment falling into place, one ending at a time. When your body speaks, it rarely uses words. Instead, it chooses sensation, the flutter in your chest, the heat that blooms without a cause, the tightness that arrives like an invisible thread tugging at your skin. Between May 8th and 10th, these feelings may become more frequent, more noticeable, and more difficult to explain away. And while your mind may try to categorize or dismiss them, your body, ever honest, ever present, is asking for something deeper, your attention. Leo, your sign is one of fire, governed by the life-giving sun. You are no stranger to vitality, to presence, to movement. But when subtle shifts begin to ripple through your physical being, it is not weakness, it is awareness. Often, when we begin to experience inner transformation, the body becomes the first messenger. Long before your life visibly changes, long before decisions are made or outcomes unfold, your body will begin to register the tension between who you've been and who you're becoming. The sensations you feel now may not be symptoms to fix but signals to honor. That lingering heat in your chest might be the stirring of courage. That sudden chill, a protective response to environments no longer safe for your energy. That inexplicable fatigue may not be a flaw in your willpower, it may be the wisdom of your system asking you to rest before the next rise. The numbers themselves offer subtle context. 8, a symbol of strength, continuity, and inner authority. 10, the completion of one cycle and the birth of another. In these days, your physical body is acting as a bridge between endings and beginnings. It is both releasing what no longer aligns and preparing to receive something new, often before your conscious mind can define what that is. In many wisdom traditions, the body is seen not as separate from the path of growth but central to it. Breath, sensation, posture, they are not accidental byproducts of life, but vital compasses within it. When you feel something shift, you are being asked not to control it, but to notice it. And in that noticing, a deeper intelligence begins to move. The High Priestess reminds us of the power of stillness, that clarity often arises not from more information, but from deeper presence. And the star brings the promise that healing is not a reward for effort, but the natural result of returning to what is real. Together, they call you back into alignment, not with an idea of who you should be, but with the rhythm of who you already are. Practical steps are not meant to be rigid rituals, but loving gestures. Warm water in the morning isn't just a habit, it's a conversation with your inner fire. Turning off the news or avoiding high-stimulation content isn't escapism, it's protecting your nervous system from chaos it doesn't need to carry. Soft music, handwritten reflections, even 5 minutes of intentional silence, they aren't about doing more. They're about feeling more, gently. So pause and ask yourself, what does your body need most right now? Not tomorrow. Not after your schedule clears. Right now. Maybe it's stillness. Maybe it's breath. Maybe it's a single moment of kindness, directed inward. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need to listen. And trust that what you're feeling, even if it doesn't make sense, is not a disruption to your path. It is your path, unfolding, one quiet signal at a time. Sometimes, the most powerful return is not a grand arrival, but a quiet remembering, the kind that unfolds when the noise fades and you finally hear your own voice again. From May 9th to 11th, there is a unique energetic threshold unfolding, a sacred window, not in a mystical sense, but as a psychological and emotional opening. A time when the structure of your current identity may begin to crack, not to break you, but to release you from what was never truly yours to carry. The message of the Tower followed by the Sun in Tarot is striking in its honesty. First, the collapse. Then, the clarity. There's no sugarcoating this sequence. It reminds us that freedom often comes only after discomfort, and growth often begins where certainty ends. You might feel, during these days, that what once made you feel secure, attention, approval, a role you've played for years, no longer feels satisfying. You might notice a subtle emptiness where praise used to feel like fuel. That isn't failure. That's awakening. The identity we wear, the way we present ourselves to meet expectations or maintain peace, is like a set of clothes we once needed for survival. But over time, they can become tight, heavy, misaligned. You begin to outgrow them not because something went wrong, but because something went right. You started evolving. The discomfort you feel isn't a problem to fix. It's a message to decode. The old version of you, the one built on pleasing, proving, or pretending, is no longer sustainable. And beneath it is something far more truthful waiting to emerge. In practices that encourage awareness and detachment from ego, there is often the image of a mirror, not one that reflects how others see you, but one that reveals who you are without effort. These next few days are your invitation to stand in front of that mirror without performing, without polishing. Simply noticing. Simply being. It may feel strange, but it's also the most honest work you can do. And like any clearing, once space is made, something new will begin to fill it. But not before you choose what to release. This is where intentional action becomes medicine. Writing a letter to yourself can be more than reflection, it becomes a sacred declaration. Drawing an image of your inner world isn't about artistic skill, but about externalizing what words can't reach. Choosing what content you allow into your digital space is an act of self-protection that your nervous system will thank you for. And walking in silence, without agenda, becomes a way to reconnect with a world that moves at the pace your soul actually needs. When you remove what no longer resonates, you make yourself available for deeper alignment. And in this space of inner quiet, what often rises first is not clarity, but compassion, for who you've been, for what you've endured, for how long you've waited to return to yourself. That return is not dramatic. It's subtle. It's when you finally stop chasing the next affirmation and begin trusting your own presence as enough. So if the world feels a bit quieter around you, if you feel a little invisible or uncertain, know that this is not the end of your story. It's the space between chapters, the breath between the tower and the sun. And in that breath, you are not losing yourself. You are slowly, gently, faithfully finding your way back. When life begins to shift, not in loud, sweeping gestures but in the subtleties of conversation, a new email in your inbox, or a quiet realization in the middle of your day, it's often a signal that the door to your next chapter is already ajar. From May 8th to 11th, the movement of energy is asking you not just to observe these shifts, but to engage with them. This period holds both opportunities and challenges, but more importantly, it invites you into deeper presence with how you respond to both. The new work opportunity that may come your way might not be wrapped in certainty. It could appear as a spontaneous idea, a recommendation from a friend, or even something you initially dismiss. But what matters is not how it arrives, it's how ready you are to meet it. Too often, people believe clarity must come before action. But often, it is action, grounded, curious, and intentional, that births clarity. The same applies to your relationships. These days may bring revelations that aren't always easy to digest. You might see someone's true character more clearly, or recognize where your own emotional needs have gone unspoken. Honesty, while not always comfortable, is one of the most liberating forces in the universe. It has the power to dissolve illusions and open the way for relationships built on resonance, not convenience. Seeing things as they are, not as you wish them to be, is not cynicism. It's clarity. And clarity is the seed of compassion. In your finances, a turning point may be approaching, but it won't come through hope alone. It comes through conscious engagement. This isn't about obsessively controlling every dollar or fearing what might go wrong. It's about stepping into the role of steward rather than passenger. When you interact with your resources from a place of balance, which the Two of Pentacles symbolizes, you stop swinging between extremes and begin creating a flow. Pair that with the Ace of Cups, and you have the emotional openness required to welcome abundance not just as money, but as security, inspiration, and freedom. During this window of time, color, and number are more than aesthetics and mathematics. Copper orange, your guiding color, symbolizes active creativity. It's a hue that energizes without overwhelming, the color of a sunrise that promises both clarity and courage. Wearing it, using it in your space, or even simply visualizing it can serve as a visual anchor to your sense of forward motion. As for the numbers, 8, 11, 17, 27, and 33, they function as internal nudges more than external magic. 8, the symbol of infinity, mirrors your capacity for resilience and regeneration. 11 is a threshold, often signaling that you're at the edge of new insight if only you'll quiet the noise long enough to hear it. Numbers like 17, 27, and 33 are less about superstition and more about rhythm. They remind you of timing, cycles, and the invisible architecture of your growth. There's a teaching that reminds us, when we are no longer resisting what is, even difficulty becomes opportunity. The outer world may or may not cooperate with your plans, but your willingness to meet life as it is, to pivot when needed, to act with awareness, to let go when holding on costs too much, that's what opens the real door to destiny. So if these days feel like they're asking more of you, it's not to test your limits, it's to reveal your range. You've prepared more than you think. Now's the moment to walk through. Leo, if you've stayed with me until this final moment, it means something inside you already knows. Change isn't just coming. It's already here. Quietly. Unshakably. And it's asking you not to chase it, but to meet it with both hands open. You may not feel ready. That's okay. Readiness isn't a matter of perfection, it's a matter of willingness. A soft yes whispered from deep inside. A decision that maybe, just maybe, your life doesn't have to stay where it's been. All those strange signs you've noticed, the silences, the delays, the dreams, the discomfort in places that once felt familiar, they aren't interruptions. They're instructions. They're your inner wisdom trying to catch up to your outer life. And they're here to remind you that the real question isn't, what if things change, but, what if I stay the same? The truth is, your soul has outgrown certain people, certain habits, even certain versions of yourself. That's not failure. That's evolution. And the universe, in its quiet, masterful way, is making sure you don't miss the exit ramp that leads to your next becoming. Not through force. Not through fear. But through signs. And those signs, Leo, were never meant to simply be noticed. They were meant to wake you up. So, will you listen? Will you stop long enough to feel what's already moving beneath the surface? Will you allow yourself to release the roles you've outworn and return to the truth of who you've always been? There's nothing passive about this kind of surrender. It's one of the most courageous things you'll ever do. But I promise you, once you do, everything begins to rearrange. Not overnight. Not all at once. But deeply, surely, and in ways that align with your highest self. You don't have to know every next step. You just have to say yes to the first one. Maybe that means turning off the noise for a few hours. Maybe it's writing something you've been afraid to say out loud. Maybe it's simply giving yourself permission to rest. Whatever it is, let that be your doorway. The rest will come. Now, I want to invite you, not just as a listener, but as someone whose energy has helped shape this space, to affirm your presence here. If this message stirred something in you, comment below. I am ready to answer the call. That's not just a phrase. It's a declaration. And sometimes, that's all the universe needs to rearrange everything. If this video supported you, please give it a like. It lets me and the algorithm know this message mattered. Subscribe to Eternal Mindfulness so you never miss another awakening moment. And share this with someone you know is standing at the same crossroads. Because Leo, remember this, signs are not passive decorations in your life. They are keys. And keys were made for opening doors. What waits on the other side is not a new identity, but a return to your true one. And you, bright soul, you've never lost your light. You've only been asked to see it again, this time, from within. Take a breath. Feel your feet. Listen to the quiet. Because something important is closer than you think. And you, Leo. You were never meant to chase the light. You were meant to realize, you are it.